one of my concerns was, dude, I just don't want the jury to see all your tattoos, you know? So keep your hands under the table and wear a turtleneck or something. I just don't want them to see it. I don't want them to judge you. You know, I don't have a problem with tattoos. I just don't want the jury to judge you. He wasn't able to hide these things, you know, from the jury. It was just too much. And what was really interesting is that we won the case. When we started asking questions from the jury about the experience, how we did, what did they think about me, what do they think about the client, all that stuff, their number one question was, can we see those fucking tattoos?
Stop
you know,
it.
he kept on wanting to hide them, but we wanted to see what they are because we thought it's cool.
All right, everybody, welcome to another great episode of Cases Gone Wild with me, your host, Jon Marko of Marko Law. And boy, do we have a crazy, wild show for you today with one of my good friends, great lawyers. He flew in all the way from Los Angeles County, escaping the wildfires to bring the fire here to you today on the show. Thank you for being here, Tigran, my friend. On the show. Remember, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We're filming live, so watch us on YouTube or on all your favorite platforms here at Cases Gone Wild. Tigran, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for flying all the way in. It was good to have dinner with you last night. I'm feeling a little tired today, but it was good. It's good to see you in person and in the flesh, my friend.
Hey, thanks for inviting. You know, when Marko calls, you say polo and you get your ass down to Detroit. I mean, there's no other way.
Yeah, thanks. Your first time to Detroit, Michigan on this trip?
Yeah. Pretty epic city.
And well, thanks for coming. Next time, as I said yesterday, you got to come back in the summer. The winters can be a little bit challenging here, but we're happy to have you here. You are a great dude. I met you out in Wyoming at Jerry Spence's ranch. For those of you who don't know, if you don't know, Jerry Spence is a very famous, legendary trial lawyer on both the criminal and the personal injury side, who has a ranch in the middle of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, outside Jackson Hole, where we stayed in dormitories and learned to hone our craft and learn from Jerry and some other great people like our friends Haitham Faraj, who's been on the show, and a lot of other real great lawyers. And it was just awesome we got to know each other, and we become friends.
Actually, we met a number of times at a number of Jerry Spence College lectures and classes. Nothing but having fun together. Right?
Yeah, working hard and having fun. Well, you have an interesting story. You have an accent, and you were born in Soviet USSR Armenia.
So Soviet Armenia, yes. And my family immigrated to Los Angeles in 1990, September 10. And literally 6 months later, Armenia came out of Soviet Union, USSR. So I still have the USSR passport, like a burgundy color, and has the CCCP on it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So for our viewers, where is Armenia? If many of us don't know, and tell us about the country and why you came to the United States.
So Armenia is in the Caucasus. So Armenians are the original Caucasian people in the world, right? Caucasus. In Caucasus, you have Georgia, you have Azerbaijan, you have some Turkey, and you have some Iran. So the original Caucasians are from that region. So it's in between Caspian and Black Sea.
Yeah.
And, on top is Russia, Georgia, and at the bottom it's Turkey and Iran. Tiny country. And population is like 3 million Armenians that live in Armenia.
Wow.
But worldwide, we're more than 10 million. And Los Angeles is the third largest population of Armenians. First is Russia, believe it or not. Second is Armenia. Third is USA, and then Los Angeles.
Wow, that's amazing. Why did your family come over here from Armenia?
Look, it's everyone's dream to live somewhere other where they're born, and Los Angeles, USA, land of the free, I think everyone's dream to be at. And we wanted to live in freedom, in prosperity, and being the land of opportunities. And that's why my mom and dad decided to take me, my brother, and immigrate to United States. And they did that. Thank God to them and to this government of United States.
And you've always been very patriotic and appreciative. I feel like, you're a very patriotic person, which I feel like sometimes we can take for granted, the opportunities that we have here in America. And look, we're a divided country right now. There's no question about it. Things aren't perfect. We got a lot of things to improve on, which we fight every day for. But it's still a great country with great people and great opportunities.
Well, when you see and feel the things that your country gives you and you don't take it for granted, that becomes, I think, more than patriotic. It's just gratitude to the country. It doesn't matter if the country's managed by Republicans or Democrats. It's the country that delivers that to you, gives you that opportunity. So you got to love the country for that purpose. So absolutely.
So tell us about your law firm, and did you find was English your first language, or how does that work? Is Armenian your first language?
So my first language was Armenian, but in school I learned Russian. That was my first school language, and English was like the third language.
Yeah,
I mean, I knew some things in English. I took classes and stuff, but yeah, English is my real third language. And, my accent was a lot more heavier. In LA, it's not as noticeable. Obviously, here in Detroit, it's very noticeable.
Yeah.
And so, I had to take like accent elimination courses, and things of that nature to be able to kind of sound like everybody else to a certain degree.
And be a trial lawyer. I mean, I can't imagine going to a country where, it's hard enough being a trial lawyer and communicating when you speak perfect English. I can't imagine having to overcome in some of the difficulties in immigrating and then having those challenges. Did you tell our listeners about, so you have your own law firm that you run and manage, very successful law firm in California. Tell us about the type of work that you do there. And was it challenging coming up as essentially an immigrant originally? And did you find there extra obstacles? Because I'll tell you, dude, I run a firm and it is freaking hard just as it is right now.
So look, nothing is easy, especially running a law firm is not easy. It took me 6 times to pass the bar. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
And
California is a hard bar.
And it took me 3 years back to back. And being very I just don't give up.
Yeah.
So, and then you become a lawyer, and then you say, and then what, right? And definitely a lot of challenges. A lot of people would look down at you, and stuff like that. And you just keep on going. You just keep on pushing, and you correct and fix things that are missing from your equation. And then at the end of the day, you look back and you tell yourself, fuck, that was a long route that you went and you achieved a lot. So it's definitely not easy. In certain cities in Los Angeles, in certain courtrooms, judges will kind of make fun of your last name or make fun of the way you speak.
Really?
Right? Back in the days, absolutely. And so would the defense lawyers or prosecutors.
Really?
Yeah.
That's that's ridiculous, I think.
It's a fact. Nowadays, it's a lot better. But when I was starting in the beginning, it was a lot different, I think, back then. And you just learn how to fight it, how to deal with it, and how to just keep on going, right? In LA, it's not that bad because there's a very diverse group of jurors, diverse group of judges, prosecutors, defense lawyers. In the outskirts or in the out of LA areas, places like Bakersfield, places like, I don't know, Orange County and stuff, you still feel that to a certain degree, not as much, but to a certain degree. And and my firm handles criminal defense and personal injury cases. Both. There's a reason behind it, and throughout the years, we definitely see and feel the difference. But at the end of the day, it's just a human nature, and we have to deal with that.
Yeah. So, why is it that you do both criminal and civil law? Most people will stay in a lane, so to speak. You know, like me, for example, I wouldn't feel comfortable handling a major criminal law case just because it's not what I do on a day-to-day basis. So tell me about yours.
Here's why, and I think your listeners who are lawyers will benefit from this. Look, nowadays, at least in California, if you file a civil lawsuit, you're maybe in court 1 or 2 or maximum 3 times before trial. In criminal cases, you have to be in court every single time before trial, on every single hearing before trial. So I got to learn that being in front of a judge at least once a month on a particular case, dealing with your opposing counsel in criminal cases, the prosecutor, just makes you feel a lot more comfortable in court than it would be if you just make a few appearances before trial. And because of that, I felt that I'm a better lawyer based on my experience of being in court all the time on criminal cases. And I started teaching that to the lawyers in my office. And I basically have a policy: if you want to be a good civil lawyer, you gotta be handling some criminal cases, because criminal cases will make sure that you're in court at least, once a month on a particular case. And it just makes you feel comfortable being in front of a judge, makes you feel comfortable being in courtroom, makes you feel comfortable dealing with the opposing counsel, making arguments and things of that nature.
It's gotten harder and harder to get in a courtroom. I think as time goes on, it was generally getting harder in a civil case to get into a courtroom, to finally get there. And then after COVID, it became even harder because a lot of the stuff, even when you do have a hearing on a civil case, it's on Zoom, right?
That's it.
So a lot of these young lawyers have never been inside of a courtroom.
That's it.
And it's good from my perspective, not good for the practice in general. It's good for my business because imagine going up against a lawyer who has never been inside of a courtroom or never, has spent significant time there. And they're going to go in all of a sudden and try a case in front of a bunch of strangers. It ain't going to happen. Not well, at least. So I think, it's a shame because I spent as a young lawyer, I was in court weekly doing motions and picking things up. And there was all kind of hearings, and they had cattle call, motion calls. So you would literally sit there. There'd be 30 cases. And I don't know how they did it in LA, but there'd be 30 cases down in Detroit, Wayne County, and you'd get a number like at a meat market almost, and they'd say, okay, and you'd sit there and wait for them to call your number, and then you'd go up in front of everybody.
So we have a similar situation in LA, and with criminal cases also, when you're sitting there and waiting for your case to be called, you see what other people do, what other lawyers do, what prosecutors do, what judges say. So you kind of get to also watch the show and learn.
Yeah, and learn what to do and also what not to do. Exactly. The judge will yell at you. Lawyers will laugh at you from the gallery. Nobody experiences that anymore. It makes people ask, I don't get nervous at all at court anymore. I have anxiety about failing.
Yeah.
But I don't get nervous about the process, And
that just comes from being in court all the time. Whether you win, whether you lose, obviously you want to win all the time.
Yeah.
But whether you win or whether you lose, being in court all the time makes a huge difference.
Huge difference.
And also, judges come and go. Clerks are always there.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the most important things in being in court is to know your clerk.
Absolutely.
Because clerks definitely make such a big impact.
They can make a life a living hell
on how the judge looks at you.
Yes.
The judge could like you, a judge might like your case, better than the other side's case. But if the clerk doesn't like you, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
getting to know your clerk, being friendly with the judge's clerk is so important.
Absolutely. So tell me, you said that you have experienced some kind of implicit or maybe explicit bias or racism in the courtroom and in the profession. Have you ever experienced it actually in a case? Like, can you give us you're on Cases Gone Wild, so you got to tell us about
absolutely.
some
So look, this is probably my second or third trial, either second trial in Orange County in front of Judge Hunt.
Okay. And what's Orange County like for our viewers? You know, I watched like the OC, like with all those beautiful young men and women, you know.
I mean, have you seen My Cousin Vinny?
Yeah.
You know how the judge was?
Yeah.
You know how the jury was?
Yeah.
That's kind of what Orange County would be.
Yeah. But probably with a lot more money, right? Or no?
You know, I would say it's a pretty good balance, but
Okay.
you know, probably further up in Newport Beach area, it's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Orange County, Santa Ana is pretty in the middle, but
Okay.
still, people are just like, you know, the judges and the jurors are just like in My Cousin Vinny type of a group of people. And yeah, we had a case. I had a client who was a really good guy. He was a Desert Storm veteran.
Oh,
so
wow.
He served the country.
Armenian guy or no?
No, he was a white guy, and he got into an accident with one of the local police department's cars, and it was a smaller police department, not one of the big ones.
So his car and the police officer's cruiser got into an accident.
So he was stopped under red light. Police cruiser came and crashed into his car.
Wow.
And the defense lawyer was this very, very flagrant, loud guy. His name was, swear to God, Harold Potter. Harry Potter. That was his name.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Like, seriously. It was this giant, big, 6'5" guy. And anyway, so, you know, he definitely was looking at me from a different angle and just was looking down and stuff like that. You know, they offered us, I don't know, $50,000 on a case. My client had a serious spine injury. And, you know, we tried the case and, you know, he wasn't making it very easy for us. And, you know, during his closing argument, you know, he just stands up, you know, right in front of my desk, in front of my desk, in front of the jury, and basically says, "Ladies and gentlemen, you see that red color in the American flag? That's the color of the blood that Americans, you know, gave for the freedom and prosperity of this country to Taliban, to Al Qaeda." And I'm sitting there, and he's basically
He's pointing at you,
as if
with his finger. He's pointing at you, saying Taliban. And
as if I'm, you know. And this was those days where Americans were really looking at these things from a different perspective.
Wake of 9/11. People were pissed.
Yeah. So I had to. So when I'm hearing this, I'm like, "What the fuck is this guy saying?" So I jumped up and I said, "Objection, Your Honor. You know, counsel is misleading the jury. I'm Christian Armenian.
Yeah.
I'm not." And then jury started laughing, like really laughing.
Yeah.
And
so did it backfire on him?
Yeah, man. You know, I was hoping to get maybe $250,000-300,000 on a case. We ended up getting like almost $1 million from a jury.
Wow. So you won the case.
And the judge was like pissed off that we got such a big number in his courtroom. And
what did the judge say when you objected?
Oh, he was laughing too, because the judge is this guy who was an intellectual, Judge Hunt, Derek Hunt, real intellectual, but he was very, very conservative, like super conservative. And there's nothing you could have done to be right in front of him. He would criticize everything that you would do. And he was just shocked that, you know, someone got such a big verdict in his courtroom.
Yeah.
He was known to get small verdicts on good cases. And then he kind of liked me, you know. And in fact, during one of the arguments that the defense lawyer was making, he had his hand in his pocket. So the judge sanctioned him, I think, like $500 or so for having his hand in his pocket.
What?
While arguing in front of a judge.
You're not allowed to have your hands in
No, not in his courtroom.
That's...
He had his own rules.
I never heard of that.
Yeah.
What other rules did he have?
I mean, that was the big one, that you can't have your hands in your pocket. And if you break any of the rules, like cutting the other side off while the other side was arguing, or he would sanction you on little things. God forbid if you're 1 minute late, that would be sanctioned during trial. So he was pretty strict.
So you won that case.
And
that racism kind of. Do you think it was offensive to the jury? Do you think that it backfired?
Look, I think he thought the jury's not as smart as they were. My last name is Martinian. When you see IAN, that's given, right? Armenian.
Yeah.
It can't be anything else. And Armenians are the first group of people, first nation in the world that accepted the Christian religion as a national religion.
Yeah, but a lot of people might not know that.
A lot of people, well, that's what he thought. That's what Harold Potter thought. And, he got to learn this the hard way.
Harry Potter.
That's it.
Well, all right. What about clients? Have you had to overcome difficult clients where maybe first impressions or first glances made it harder for you? Like I thought you said you had some case with a guy with tattoos.
Look, again, an experience in Orange County, which was quite surprising to me. I had a client that was tattooed up, all over his body.
Face too?
Just his neck.
The neck?
Not the face, just the neck.
Like
from both sides. And these were just, cool tattoos. These were not like, anything flagrant.
It wasn't like Nazis.
No. He was from a good family. Just maybe he had too much of a good life.
Yeah.
So anyway, when we're trying this case, this was in front of Judge Glass, who is the second strictest judge in Santa Ana courthouse.
Wow. A lot of strict judges there.
A lot of strict judges. Well, there were some really fair ones. Judge Di Cesare, who is retired now, but he was really fair. But Judge Hunt, number one, Judge Glass, number two. We're trying this case in front of him. It's a small impact accident, and he's a white guy, cool dude. And one of my concerns was, dude, I just don't want the jury to see all your tattoos, So keep your hands under the table and wear a turtleneck or something.
Yeah.
I just don't want them to see it. I don't want them to judge you.
Right.
I don't have a problem with tattoos. I just don't want the jury to judge
some people do, and some people will judge you.
So anyway, he wasn't able to hide these things, from the jury. It was just too much. And what was really interesting is that we won the case. We got, I don't know, like $650,000 or so. And when we started asking questions from the jury about the experience, how we did, what did they think about me, what did they think about the client, all that stuff, their number one question was, can we see those fucking tattoos?
Stop it.
He kept on wanting to hide them, but we wanted to see what they are because we thought it's cool. So like sometimes you think certain things might be judged against your client, but sometimes you're wrong about that.
Yeah. Did you deal with this in voir dire when you were questioning the jury before the case? Did you say, hey, look, my client has tattoos. Anybody, have any issues with that or anything like that? Or did you ignore it?
I mean, look, I thought that if he wears a turtleneck, he can hide it. And I didn't think that when you're sitting for a long period of time, turtleneck goes down. And, so I didn't really get into that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to open, because again.
Wearing a turtleneck in California, that could be kind of hot.
Well, this was during winter, so it was okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, plus I had a lot more to do with the voir dire because my client was a former federal convict. So, I had bigger
fish to fry
with the jury that I had to clear with beforehand rather than getting into tattoos.
So, do you think in general judges have become less strict? Because I remember when I first started, and different judges have different, they're human beings, right? So they have different rules, different idiosyncrasies. They can kind of run their courtroom how they want within the rules of the law and the court rules. But, I think, I don't know how it is in California, but here, generally, the judges have become more relaxed or less formal, strict since I started practicing. And I think part of it is time and just the generational gap. And also part of it's COVID, I mean, it is less formal when you're on a Zoom sitting behind a computer. It just is. Anybody who says it's not is wrong, you know.
I definitely agree with you on that, even with federal cases as well, because federal judges are
are stricter for sure.
But I've seen that with federal judges as well, where they're a lot more relaxed.
Yeah.
And not as strict and not as pushy as they used to be. What I can tell you is, based on my experience of dealing with thousands of cases for almost 20 years, is this: those judges that are elected and not appointed, and those judges that become a judge as their second phase of their profession from the private sector or whatnot, they're a lot more balanced and fair, rather than those that, you know,
just become a judge right away.
Well,
right?
something like that. Yeah. So those judges that become judges in their 40s or so, and this is their job to give back to the community, they're a lot more fair and balanced. Like, for example, we had the supervising judge in Van Nuys, Judge Lou Meisinger. He used to be the general counsel for Disney, and then when he retired, he was, I think, pretty wealthy, and he decided to become a judge, and he did. And he was probably one of the most respected, fair and balanced judges I've ever come across, and intelligent too, I've come across. And why? Well, because he had nothing to prove to anybody. This was his time to go back, to go to the bench and to give back to the community of fair and balanced judging. But those that, you know, come at that bench through early stages of their career, they're there to prove something to someone.
Or ones that haven't had experience with litigation too can happen. You know that because I like judges that know what it's like to have to.
Of course,
you know, we're doing the best we can, and the practice can be hectic and everything. So, but it's interesting to look at that. The other thing on Zoom is, you know, you argue sitting down. So, you would never do that in a real courtroom. You stand when you address the judge, and some judges will get really pissed if you don't stand when you talk to them. So what I do when I'm even on Zoom, and I'm the only lawyer in Michigan who does this that I know of, is I have a standing desk, and I always stand even on Zoom hearings. And I had a judge tell me once from Macomb County, he said, look, I just want to tell you, I really like that you do that. He said, I don't know if anybody's ever told you that. But
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you wearing boxers or pants when you're doing this?
Depends on the day. Depends on the day. It only matters from the waist up.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. Number one, it's a respect to the profession to be on your feet. It's respect to the court. It's respect to the judge. It's respect to your client and respect to your case.
Yeah.
You know, I think being respectful to the process is one of the most important things in our profession. Like in criminal cases, I think criminal cases have a lot more civility between the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense lawyer than in civil cases.
And isn't that crazy? Because in criminal cases, somebody could go to jail or have their liberty taken away, or I don't know, do they have death penalty in California?
Yeah, of course.
You know, we don't have that here, but in some places they could die.
And civility is number one thing in criminal cases. It's funny, right? If you think about it.
In civil cases, we're fighting about money.
All the time.
And I'll tell you, I've had some less than civil cases. Now, there's some great defense attorneys out there in Michigan and other places who are very civil. But I have had some cases where it is not civil whatsoever. Lying, hiding, cheating, stealing, all of the above.
I think keeping it civil is very important for our psychological, mental well-being. I don't care if I lose or I win a case. I would always give a hug to the opposing lawyer, because fuck, man, we spend 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks together in one courtroom, fighting for justice. Justice in his mind is what's right for his client. Justice for me what's in my mind is
What
right
What
for my
about
client.
defense attorneys that lie and cheat?
I mean, look, we all had those situations, right? I think you could civilly teach them a lesson, and they would never fuck with you again.
Yeah.
They would
Yeah.
never fuck with you again.
A good result speaks louder.
Well, not
sometimes.
only good result, it's just teaching them a lesson. That teaching them a lesson, I think, is a lot more valuable than fighting, screaming, cussing, or anything in that nature.
Yeah.
So I had this interesting case where my client was an Armenian national hockey team player who was training. Who was training at one of the ice rinks in LA, and because the ice was not maintained well, his skates got stuck in the ice, and he broke his leg pretty bad. He broke his arm pretty badly. The defense lawyer was putting up such a crazy fight against us, and during the trial, he kept on saying, I hate lawyers. I hate dealing with lawyers. He was just being an asshole, just like that. He was saying this to the jury, just to make sure that the jury likes him. He looked like Santa Claus with a white beard and stuff. So he said this so many times, and I objected so many times. The judge that was the judge on the case actually sanctioned him again $500 for saying these things and said, look, I'm a fucking lawyer too. So you hate me too? What are you saying? You want the jury to hate him? You want the jury to hate me because we're lawyers and you don't like lawyers? So sometimes you could be civil but aggressive and deliver enough messages to the judge for the judge to kind of do something about it.
Well, you do a lot. Don't you do a lot of like meditation and mental well-being things?
Mindfulness and meditation. So look, I became a certified meditation instructor, I don't know, like 10 years ago. And that was because I had too many things going on in my life, in my head. And I think mindfulness and meditation helped me to become a better lawyer, better person, and to be able to manage crisis. And our profession is full of crisis all the time. Manage these things a lot more smoother and get better results. Yeah, for sure.
So how do you meditate?
I mean, look, meditation is, if you were to define what meditation is, the exact definition, according to Tibetan monks, is the path of learning about yourself. If you were to just close your eyes, try to sit, quietly for about a minute, you start thinking about things, right? Your mind cannot stop.
I'm not much of a meditator.
Well, it's, so there's so many different ways to meditate. You don't just have to do what monks are doing. You could meditate on just relaxing your mind. You can meditate on creating realities that don't exist. You can meditate on healing yourself.
Yeah.
You can meditate on winning cases. I mean, it's all mind games, I think.
Yeah.
It's all through your mind creating something that doesn't exist.
Well, you're going to have to teach me some calming techniques.
Anytime.
Because
check out my Instagram page, Monk Lawyer. I talk about these
the
things
Monk
a lot.
Lawyer.
The Monk Lawyer, yeah.
Monk Lawyer. We're going to tag you on this podcast so they can follow you. So I'm going to have to look at that because I need some sanity. I have a very kind of manic approach to the practice.
So let me just give you one simple tip, and to your viewers as well. Look, we wake up early in the morning. We go to the restroom.
Yeah.
We wash. We brush our teeth. We take a shower. Right. We eat.
Yeah.
We drink water. These are all physical needs, hygienic needs that we have. One organ in our body that we don't take care of is our brain. It's an organ too. And how do you wash your brain, or how do you take care of your brain? Well, you do that through meditation. And it doesn't have to be 1 hour, hour and a half meditations. It could be just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But the thing is, once you start meditating, you would end up meditating 15, 20 minutes every day. Early in the morning, as soon as you wake up, instead of jumping to your cell phone, picking up and looking at your texts or news, you go to restroom, you pee, you have a glass of water, sit quietly on a chair like this. Make sure that your head is not supported by anything. That's the key. Otherwise, you'll fall asleep. Just close your eyes and focus on your favorite color. for 3 minutes. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
All right, blue. So you just focus on color blue and try to merge into it.
But then
3
what do you
minutes.
do when you start thinking about that brief that you have to get
You
filed
just
by
you
4
keep
o'clock?
you turn around and you get into that blue color.
Blue.
And that's how you relax your mind. Because the second you're done meditating for 5 minutes, your mind is so much more rejuvenated, focused,
Yeah.
and calm. You know, when your mind is calm, it's a lot more creative. When
Yeah.
your mind is not calm and under stress, you start making mistakes. You don't think about all the things that you should be thinking about to win your cases. So calming your mind is one of the best ways to calm your mind is through meditation.
So what about you seem to have achieved a pretty good work-life balance, which when I hear the words work-life balance, I think that it doesn't exist, right? It's not, it's like, it just doesn't exist. Like there's no, I'm working all the time. Even like when I'm out at dinner, like we went to dinner last night, I probably thought about, should I had to do multiple occasions? And we talked about work for a lot of times. So, how do you achieve a work-life balance? Like you seem to be traveling all the time. You have a big firm that you're running in LA. Like we met in Paris for dinner.
We did. Surprisingly,
Yeah.
Right?
I'm in Paris and I get a text, "Hey, where are you?" I'm like, I'm in Paris. And you're like, "Yeah, I know. So am I.
behind you."
Where are you? Let's go get dinner." It's like
So
small
look,
world.
I think based on my experience, being able to delegate duties in your firm to others, the second you learn delegation, that would open up the path to work-life balance. If you take up everything on your shoulder, I mean, it's impossible. I mean, I still work 7 days a week. Don't get me wrong. If I get a text with a new case, I'm out there to sign it up.
Yeah.
You know, if I need to speak with a client, and it's an important matter, I'm going to call him even on Sunday, even when I'm at the soccer game,
Right.
or whatever. But having a good team in your firm to whom you can delegate duties and you can trust them to handle them, that would definitely open up the path to having a work-life balance. But again, look, I could be traveling, which I do a lot, almost every month. And during my travel, my firm knows I have 2-hour block open time for me to be in touch with them on problems, if there are problems.
Yeah.
If there are no problems, then they just, text me questions.
Yeah.
I answer within those 2 hours. You just create an atmosphere where you enjoy life. At the same time, you take care of your clients and your business.
Yeah. Well, what about, you said you do criminal law. We were talking about some cases that you did. Tell us about some of these. What is like one of your longest criminal cases? Because some of these criminal cases go pretty long, don't they?
Look, generally, criminal cases should not take as long as civil cases. And my longest civil case was 6 weeks.
Yeah.
In August, very hot month in LA.
What kind of case was that?
It was like a personal injury case with 2 defendants, and the defense lawyers unfortunately made it very, very long by bringing every single potential non-essential witness, and the judge allowed it. During the trial, the court's air conditioning went off, so we had to take off for like a few days here and there. So it was, that was my longest civil case.
Don't the juries get pissed?
The jury was pissed, and we lost the case, because, after the 4th week, the jury just didn't want to listen to anybody. They just wanted to
Go
be
home,
done with it.
probably. 6 weeks is too long.
Yeah, but we had a case in downtown LA in front of Judge Rapay. Again, the biggest asshole and biggest conservative guy that LA court has ever seen, Judge Rapay.
Is he still there?
He's, I don't care.
Well, hopefully I don't know if he's
care.
a fan of the show. So hello, Judge Rapay.
It was
whatever your name
16
is.
weeks.
16 weeks?
It was
Wait.
a white collar case.
4 months?
It was a white collar case. Yeah, 16 weeks. It was a white collar case. 16 weeks.
What was the case about? Tell us about this case.
I mean, look, this was the allegations were that my client stole the investor's money, and it was a lot more complicated than that. And the jury only got to listen to the prosecutor's case, and they were, listening to our case in the beginning. But when it got to 16 weeks, again, the jury was only left with what they listened in the beginning from the prosecutor, and they just wanted to be out of there. And
dude, I mean, like, how do you even, that's what, a third of a year.
Yeah.
So how do you even continue to do your other practice when like a third of your year, like I wouldn't even take a vacation. Like my longest vacation was 2 weeks.
And look, so
I was working still.
And this goes to work-life balance thing that I said. If you have the right people in the office to whom you could delegate responsibilities, then you could try a case for 16 weeks. I mean, it was definitely one of the most interesting and important cases I've tried, because I was against AG's office, and I had a very
Attorney General's office,
and I had a very tough judge, and I didn't have an easy case. It was a paper trail case, and the prosecutor hardly had any kind of a loss in his practice. He was like a Stanford grad guy, and we lost the case, and then we got the case overturned in appeal. But
are you gonna have to retry it another 16 weeks?
So I'm not retrying it. Somebody else will. Yeah.
16 weeks. So that whole 16 weeks was wasted for the jury. I mean,
well, look, that's what kind of some of the jurors that gave us declarations after the trial. That's what they were saying.
That it was too long.
Yeah, and they were not paying attention, and stuff like that. And those were the reasons why.
Yeah, that's a long time. I had a case up north. It's the largest intact employment verdict in Michigan history. That went 6 weeks.
Okay.
For a civil case, that's a pretty decent amount of time.
That is.
We had like 41 witnesses, and I mean, that jury. I want to thank them, and I thank them then. I mean, they were attentive, and they put in the time. This Genesee County jury for 6 weeks. They paid attention. They came, showed up every day. We only lost one juror, and it was the day before. Listen to this. So we get through 41 witnesses, 6 weeks. The jury's been there every day, every single one of them, every day. There was one juror that I could tell during my closing. You get a feeling sometimes. There was this older woman, older white lady who just gave me this scowl kind of throughout the whole trial, right? So I didn't feel too good about her. I didn't know about the others. I wasn't sure. And the day before deliberations, she gave the judge a note that said that she had a conflict and she couldn't come back. Now, what do I think happened? I think she knew that everybody else was going to find in our favor, and she just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so she took herself out. Thank you, lady, too, for not coming back.
Why did you keep her then? If you didn't
ran out of strikes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we had it was a race case, and I ended up with an all-white jury. Even with the strikes, so you work with what you can.
Yeah. This COVID case you had is definitely an epic and revolutionary thing you did. I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think the jury was really invested in the case, because they all suffered as a result of COVID, as a result of the limitations that the government placed on their shoulders, and they all wanted to voice their voice through you and through your case. So,
that was that religious accommodation case we just did.
Yeah.
And that was a record verdict as well. That was great. And my firm also just did another one against MGM Grand Casino, and we got a verdict. Not as big of a verdict. My associate, who's a great guy, Michael Jones, handled the case. Very difficult case, but I think that juries are pissed, and I think a lot of people feel like COVID was mismanaged.
Mismanaged and misrepresented.
Mismanaged and misrepresented.
I think you should put this in the news media, so that others will see. And
it was on the front page of the Free Press.
Okay, I saw that, definitely. But like in the news media, like in channel, CNN, Fox, whatever.
I was on Fox News for it and stuff.
Good.
So people are pissed.
Yeah.
But on that case, going to too long of cases on that case up north, 40. So after 6 weeks, so the defense attorney, who is the attorney general's office, their closing argument was they had a PowerPoint that was like 280 slides. They had a slide for each witness. There was 41 witnesses.
Yep.
It was insane. His closing argument was like 3 hours long. Like I almost dozed off during the middle of it. I mean, that's the insanity though. So you got to be careful with those long cases.
So that's what the good defense lawyers do. They bore the jury. They piss off the jury because jury knows that they're there because of you. You brought the case.
Normally it works against the plaintiff.
Yeah, it does.
If it goes too long. But that's why I always try to show the jury in my trials that I'm going to, I always tell myself, I'm going to respect your time. I'm going to go as fast as I can. I'm long-winded, so, please don't hold it against my client. And I try to show them that I am trying to move the trial fast. So then when the defense does their thing, if they want to delay, I hope that they see it's not me. But that's a good
and talking about it in closing arguments also makes a big difference.
Yeah. So I understand that you're doing some crypto law now. What the hell is crypto law?
So look, I mean, crypto law, there's only one case law that manages the entire crypto space. It's the Howey test. Okay.
So this is for like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies or what?
Any kind of cryptocurrency. In United States, and I would say worldwide, crypto lawyers that deal with crypto situations represent founders. They represent crypto companies. And I came across a lot of cases, during the last bull run, not this one, where consumer end was just not represented at all. So I started.
So what type of cases are these though? Like people.
So these are cases where because of, let's say, company like Coinbase, Crypto.com, whatever, like KuCoin, those companies that hold your cryptos where you do trades, they do something negligently or they do something illegally, and you end up losing
money,
whatever you had, your crypto. So one type of cases that is you would sue them to recover your client's losses. Other type of cases would be where you actually sue the crypto company that created the crypto because they did some kind of a pump and dump.
Like what about Haktua girl? Remember Haktua girl that created her own crypto thing?
Yeah, so that's pump and dump kind of a situation where it really doesn't
fake.
Represent what they say it represents, and people invest money and then the founder sells it and just disappears. So
basically takes everybody's money and then leaves.
It's what the pump and dump.
Well, this is what I don't really understand crypto, and I just don't understand. Like, if you look at like the Haktua girl, she was that woman who went on Instagram and said you got to spit on that thing and all this stuff. I mean, she's just like literally like a Instagram person. She has no expertise. How can someone just like create a currency? Like, what if I understand, look, government money, the government, this is our accepted government-backed money. But like, what I could just make like a Marko law currency, so like Jon Marko. I mean,
so you can.
How is that worth any money?
So you can. Let me tell you. So you can do that. In fact, Trump coin went almost 200-300% up today. I think after inauguration, his coin is going to go up parabolic.
I didn't even know Trump had a.
Yeah. It just came out recently, like a few days ago.
But it's all fake. I mean, it's fake.
Not fake. It's not fake. We're talking about meme coins. Meme coins are just what they are. They're just memes.
But the Trump coin is not even a real coin. It's just this like idea.
It's an idea, and people bet money on that picture. And that's it. And if enough people bet on that idea and then on that picture, and they start trading amongst each other, it's created value.
But it's fake.
The value in that coin is the community, not the picture, right?
But when we have $1 or $100, it is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States of America. Okay.
Maybe.
A Haktua coin or even a Trump coin
is backed by the community that she created that backed her idea.
But it's a shell game because they got to keep putting in money.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't understand crypto.
look,
I don't understand how crypto could ever take over or whatever.
Well, I think it's taking over already. Like XRP is the ecosystem where financial institutions are now going to be transacting on, and XRP's value went up.
I don't know what that is, XRP.
It's Ripple. It's called Ripple. It's a system where banks move their monies.
Is it a Bitcoin?
It's not. No, it's not.
See,
Bitcoin.
This stuff is way beyond my.
Let me give you a simple example. When internet was created, on internet there were created websites, and then on websites there were created emails, right?
Yeah.
Imagine blockchain being the internet, and then the Bitcoin is the website on the blockchain. Okay, and then everything else is built on it or around it. And Bitcoin is Bitcoin is called digital gold, and really it is, because there's a limited amount of Bitcoins, 21 million, and I think 19 million is already minted, and there's only 2 million left, and that's why Bitcoin is $105,000 per coin, and I think the price is going to go up.
It's insane to me because it's like a fake digital coin.
But it's not fake, and it's not fake. It's real digital coin, and once you have it, you can create things on it. You can lend it. You can
but
sell
it's
it.
backed. It's just this idea.
But it's not an idea. It's a reality where there's a digital code behind it. And if you have one Bitcoin, you're the only one who holds it.
But it's just some money that some guy made up. Now, look, I guess all of our money is what some guy made up, but it's a government, right? It's our government.
Thank you.
That has, which I think is different than some
nail on the
dude.
head.
I mean, if the government was minting Bitcoin and it was the agreed upon standard of everybody in the world, then I understand it. Because I mean, $1 is just a piece of paper, right?
So here's what I could say. You just hit the nail on the head. Government started regulating cryptocurrency space within last few years. Trump coming to the office is going to be a major pro-crypto administration, and I think Trump is going to make Bitcoin to be part of U.S. strategic reserve. Number of governments in the world, one of them is El Salvador, their currency is Bitcoin.
And how's that working out?
And when he did that 4 years ago, people were laughing at him. He's a young guy. He's in his 30s. People were laughing at him, and I mean, his whatever he started with is 300% up now. So he's doing pretty good.
That's pretty good.
He's doing pretty good.
Well, we're not
other countries are looking at him and trying to copy.
Cases gone wild of Bitcoin. Did you see? I read in the paper that there's some dude who had all this Bitcoin on a hard drive, and he accidentally threw it out, and it was worth millions of dollars. And then he sued the landfill. So first of all, this guy had all this Bitcoin on a hard drive. So apparently you can store it on a computer thing. He threw it in the trash, or somehow it got thrown out with his old computer or something. And he went every day to the landfill to look for it, and he could never find it. So he ended up suing the landfill. And I just heard his case was kicked out of court. Which it probably, I mean, it should be, right?
I mean, what's his cause of action?
Right.
What did they do wrong that he deserves to be there?
Right.
But in crypto law, the biggest thing that's missing in that space is attorneys that represent the consumer end. Everybody wants to represent crypto exchanges, crypto founders, but I would say there are very, very few lawyers that represent the consumer end.
And are you going to do that?
And I've been doing it, and that's one of my focus.
And you said there's some tests on crypto, the Howey test?
The Howey test, yeah. There are 3 elements there, and basically, you look at these 3 elements to say whether or not this particular crypto is a property or an investment. And based on that evaluation, then the government steps into the picture and says, if it's a property, you got to pay property tax. If it's an investment, then you cannot call it a crypto and things of that nature. So all the cases that get hurt in crypto-related matters, if it's with the government, it goes to SEC courts, federal courts.
Yeah.
But on civil cases where you're just suing an exchange for negligence or something in that nature, those cases could go to regular courts, but most of them are going through arbitration because you sign an arbitration agreement with the exchange.
Yeah.
That if you ever are wronged, you're going to go through an arbitration.
All right. Well, if I invest and lose a bunch of money in crypto, I'm going to give you a call. Or
Absolutely.
if I throw out my computer and it ends up in
So
the Detroit landfill.
So if
I'll
you ever
call
get into a situation like that, there's a 24-word password to have access to your Bitcoin or any kind of cryptocurrency.
Did he lose the password?
Well, that's the thing. You can't lose that password. If you do, you're done. That's
There,
it.
you can't do like a auto recovery.
No.
Like I lose all my
No.
passwords, and
No.
then I go on the thing, forgot my password. I forget my username half
So
the time.
what you do is you write it on a piece of paper. You keep 6 of them in your mom's house. You keep 6 of them in your, somewhere else.
Hey, where
you
does
keep
your
it in
mom
different
live?
places.
Where does your mom live?
You keep them in separate places.
Don't put out your mom's
You
address.
keep them in separate places, and you always have 2 or 3 copies of it. Because if
Yeah.
you ever lose that, you're fucked.
Then
You could lose
you're
it.
walking
Yeah.
through the landfill.
Unless you keep your money on exchanges like Coinbase or crypto, which is dangerous.
Dangerous. Somebody can
because-
steal it, right?
Well, somebody can steal it. Also, what could happen is what happened with number of other exchanges where they just went bellies up and they lose your money. If they
I heard it. Yeah, like
Ex-
the Bernie Frank thing. Or whatever.
Bernie Madoff.
Bernie Madoff.
But that's different.
No,
That's
no.
not
Who
cool.
is that guy with the fro out in Seattle who stole all that money? FTX.
FTX. Yeah.
Well, look, I haven't started investing in it yet, but we'll see. I'm just I'm just a simple guy here trying to help people. So when I do, I'm gonna come see you. Okay.
Call me anytime.
All right,
And
dude.
come.
Thanks for being on the show. I'm getting the famous big cane is coming out of the sides and pulling me from my management team, saying we're out of time. Everybody, thanks a lot for listening. It's been another awesome episode of Cases Gone Wild. I'd like to thank Tigran Martinian for being here and talking about some interesting cutting edge stuff. Coming all the way in from sunny California. Next time I'm going to come see you.
You should.
And
better.
We'll do it upright. All right, everybody. We'll see you in another 2 weeks on another Cases Gone Wild. If you like the show, please share it. Please check us out if you need help. We'll get you to Tigran or whoever you need to go see. Our Instagram is Marko Law Firm. Jon Marko is my Instagram, and you can visit us at markolaw.com, markolaw.com, or give us a call, 833-MARKO-LAW. Also, if you want to learn more about these cutting-edge topics, I hope you're coming to our Michigan Trial Lawyers Summit.
Hey, I promised I will. I will.
All right, my man, that's what I like to hear. Michigan Trial Lawyers Summit. If you want to learn more about some of these cutting-edge practice tips and you're a plaintiff's lawyer or a criminal defense lawyer, please go to mtlsummit.com. That's mtlsummit.com and register now. There's limited availability, so get in while you can. We're going to have a bunch of great people. We're going to have a lot of fun. We'll see you in another 2 weeks on another Cases Gone Wild.